Welcome again. I'm going to just have everybody jump in on this one. Let's talk first about an industry or practice area where you're seeing the highest amount of growth in client work right now. So again, it could be a sector of the economy. It could also be a practice area or a function that you're serving. And we'd love to know what kind of questions clients are asking that are driving the growth. If you're able to share a clear client story, then that's specifically optimal. Of course, you can keep client names private. Who wants to go first?
I can go ahead and start.
Go
Jessica, go
ahead,
ahead. Okay, I'll go. A couple of things. It's not as much an industry or capability as much as it's the tools that we're using to deliver the work, that people who are capable in those tools or well trained or well versed in those tools are differentially helpful to the business. Since 2022, we've been working with OpenAI. I think a couple of weeks ago we just announced an expanded partnership with them. And about 30% or more of our business is enabled by AI. And so we're looking for people with that skill set everywhere in the world. It's sort of, for those of us who've been around for a while, it's sort of now like if you don't use it, you're kind of not going to be able to do the job. In the late 90s when the internet was coming on before Google happened and people were like, maybe I'll try using it. I'm like, no, you're going to have to figure this one out. Like this one's not going to be optional. This is the way things are going to work. And our take is that AI is bringing that same vibe to the job and to the market. We have done some really cool work using AI. One of the things I can talk about, if you Google Create Real Magic or go to createrealmagic.com, it's work that we did with Coca-Cola and creatives around the world, allowing them to leverage AI and Coca-Cola's creative assets to create new art. So it's sort of a triumvirate of Bain, OpenAI, and Coca-Cola creating something really cool. But there's other examples that are out there, but that's one that I think we're really proud of, and it's really cool as a photographer. It's kind of dope to see, creatives getting their shine.
I love it. Keith, is that also translating into demand from clients? Are they asking how to incorporate AI inside their practice areas? Or are you seeing it more on the client delivery side?
It's a range of things. Some know that they need to integrate it, and it's a question of how. Others know that they should, and it's a question of where. And both are valid questions, and different companies are at different states on that journey. Some aren't sure where to start because it feels like a daunting investment. It's a new space, you're not familiar with it. And so we're helping them prioritize. Okay, here's 20 things you could do, but here are the ones that have the highest ROI or are no regrets moves. You won't regret going down this path, a year from now when the technology leapfrogs again. And then there's others who know what they want to do, and it's more a question of how do we implement it? How do we get the organization transformed to move in the direction we want them to move in more effectively?
I'll have more questions about it as we go.
Yeah.
Jessica, did you want to jump in?
Keith, I think you nailed it for the most part. I would just add that our own internal research is suggesting that our CEOs are really optimistic about the future of their industries, particularly, as we said, in the Gen AI space. It is certainly being recognized as perhaps the greatest potential to impact productivity, marketing, product development, the overall customer experience. And 80% of our CEOs anticipate Gen AI to be the top investment priority for their company. As we look to head into 2025, KPMG is also looking to make a significant investment here. I'll just add to that our CEOs are not forgetting, they're also recognizing the importance of environmental, social, and governance priorities that support net zero goals, the workforce, our stakeholders, and society at large. So one key to success will be to focus on a long-term sustainable growth enabled by strategic planning across all functions of a company.
Yeah. I mean,
That
I
sounds
would
like
say,
a good business model for consulting, by the way.
yeah,
Everything's
as,
changing. We should stick around for a long time, right?
yes, plus one, and plus one on Jessica and Keith's points, in particular around the AI. We have to be living under a rock right now to not recognize the criticality and also how and where we apply it. And I love those questions that Keith commented there. L.E.K is a strategy consulting firm, about 2,500 around the world. And what we've really been picking up is a lot around this economic divergence that we're seeing across different regions, different industries as well. It's not new, but some of the players are shifting a bit, or we predict will begin shifting a bit as we think about technology versus healthcare versus renewables, and where we see some of those expansion opportunities and growth opportunities. And that's really where L.E.K focuses, is around growth. For us, we've focused really heavily in financial services, and building and expanding our capabilities there. It was a newer area for us to focus in parts of the world, certainly in the Gulf, where we've been doing some focus there, as well as expanding more of our horizontals. If we think about our industry sectors and then looking at our horizontals, due diligence has always been a core part of ours. Corporate strategy has always been a core part of who we are, and also increasingly digital as a horizontal, and our organization and performance. So are really around the improvement of the organization from a strategic consulting perspective. So that's some of the things that we're seeing as being hot in 2025, and we're doubling down.
Yeah, and I would just echo that point across different industry sectors. The work around a firm's operating model, which is how you organize, how you go to market, where you locate talent, where you are from a tax perspective. We're seeing a lot of that work because of the reasons the colleagues have just said in terms of tech-enabled transformation. And firms are needing to drive out costs and think about to organize the work in a different way, in different locations, so they can actually fuel this growth and investment in AI and automation and modernization and cloud. And we're seeing this across sectors. We're working with fintechs, with large financial institutions. I just finished a program with a large contact center. So we're seeing this at an enterprise level and a functional level. This is not easy work, and it's a lot of anxiety and change for our clients. And you need a lot of kind of skills around industry knowledge and business models and organization and how to drive project management and how to drive change. But it's pretty exciting. Again, not net new, but some of the triggers around this are.
Bashani, it reminds me a little bit
yeah.
as well of, we've got the COVID overhang coming as well. So when you talk about that cost takeout and restructure, is that a lot of industries, healthcare, we rode a big wave for a while, and now you're coming back and saying, how do you optimize now based on a reset demand?
Absolutely.
It's pretty fascinating. I can't remember a time in the industry, and maybe my 20 years are too short, where we've been in a moment where companies are growing fairly rapidly, but focusing on cost. Usually it feels like it goes the other way around. Like you mentioned earlier, Keith, you have these 8-year cycles, right? On the back end of the 8-year cycle, people are starting to cost optimize because they're concerned about constraining growth. But here it's really like pulling margin to I think, Bhushan, if this is what you said, right, they're pulling margin out to fuel cash flow so that they can invest in next generation growth.
And to underlie that, Jenny, we're seeing that at the macro level. Like GDP in the US has never been stronger. The labor markets have never been tighter. Earnings are through the roof in lots of different sectors, especially in tech and financial services. So I think what you're describing, we see at a macro level in the economy, which is, again, good news. It doesn't mean that there's challenges and firms are having to tighten their belts, but the economy is incredibly strong.
I love it. Well, I'm really excited to poke into some of this. I want to move directions a little bit just to talk about your firm's current working model. And this is something that I certainly see in the news right now. Are you in person? Are you hybrid? Are you remote? Are you traveling? Like, tell us what's happening. So, Jessica, are you able to go first for this one? I'd love for you to kind of just share a little bit about what the model is. And if you see any changes in the future, if you could share that as well, I think that'd be really helpful.
All of the above. I would say for the most part, a large majority of our people fall into the hybrid category. So meaning they'll move offices, client sites, home, and other remote locations. The decision for you all, as you are exploring opportunities on whether to work on any particular day will be determined by a variety of factors, including leader guidance, the tasks that need to be done, client engagement expectations, training and development opportunities, and of course, your own individual needs, right? We care so much about your individual success. Our hybrid professionals work with their engagement leaders to establish really clear expectations and guidelines regarding the frequency of work from home and remote locations. This is called KPMG's Flex with Purpose model, and it balances the best aspects of remote work with in-person connections that drive the innovation, the networking, the professional development, and other areas that help shape our culture and really who we are and support our continued growth and collective successes. Our model at KPMG is all about empowering flexibility, the well-being of you all, while still participating in the in-person activities that are well-planned, intentional, and purposeful. And I'll just speak for consulting in particular. We do expect that on average, our professionals will spend 2 to 3 days a week together, either in the office or at the client site. I'm a big fan of this because it does allow for peer interaction, all the real-time coaching, mentoring, and the ability to actively engage with our clients.
So Jessica, can I just ask a really tactical question here? If I live in Aspen, Colorado, but I want to work out of the Chicago office, is there a space for that at KPMG right now, or would you really encourage that people are physically living, build their home in the region where they are? Can you just kind of answer that direct question? Because I think when people are looking at the list of where could I apply and how, where could I go? I think that what does hybrid actually mean is one of those key questions.
Great question. So you do have to be within a commutable distance to the office or the geolocation that is listed in your offer letter. So our expectation is that if you apply to a Stamford, Connecticut job, that you will be within a commutable distance to get to and from the Stamford, Connecticut office when need be. Does that help clarify?
Super great. So private jets are fine. If I can take my private jet from Aspen.
If that's your commutable distance, I love it. Do it. Take me with you.
This is why I have my second child is a boundary breaker. This is it's payback for me for questions like that. Keith, what about you? Can you describe for Bain what's happening there?
Yeah, I mean, it starts with a little bit of what we're about as a firm, right? And we're about creating client and people success stories, and people includes both our clients and the people at the firm. And so success for them looks like training to be general managers, training to be CEOs, training to be executive directors, founders, entrepreneurs. And that sort of you start from there and then work your way backwards. So our primary goal is that you're co-located with your team, especially for consulting staff, as much as possible, whether that's in the office on the client side or for all I care, meet at a Starbucks. It just doesn't matter, right? But what we've seen is two things are true. One, our people are happier when they're with each other. And we check because we're a consulting firm and you can always put it on a PowerPoint slide and do another survey. But the truth is that when we look, the teams that work and co-locate together more often are generally more satisfied and have a higher NPS score with the work that they're doing. And so we just know that empirically, and it's been a couple of years now. And so that's the goal, is to have people co-locate. The other thing that we noticed is it turns out this is kind of an apprenticeship job. I can train you, you can read, you can come on webinars. You're going to learn the most when you can sit and turn to the person next to you and say, what the hell is going on in my model? And they can walk right over and look. And so we see that people learn more, they learn faster, and they get a deeper understanding when they're co-located together. And that's also important for us because we're big on integrated teams at Bain. So if you're working with our advanced analytics group or our innovation and design services group, they're on the case team with you. They're not a department sitting someplace else in another office. So not only are you in the team room with other consultants, but you're in the team room with all of the data scientists or engineers or developers that are working to deliver what we're delivering for our client. And so the learning and the happiness and the satisfaction with the job are really important, but it's about co-located. It's not in the office, out of the office. I mean, if you want to have everybody over at your house, that works too. Just be together.
Love it. Rustin and Bhushan, we don't have to belabor the point if your insights are the same, but if you want to share, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, I would just say I'd give a +1 on the points of the why that we've just heard beautifully articulated. For us specifically at L.E.K, we are Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in the office and first Fridays. We build that first Friday really around some programming, more the formal learning and connections. We also emphasize a lot of our ERGs, our employee resource groups, during those monthly celebrations. And we connect holistically, here in the US at least, holistically across our different offices in the US. So we really try to be more meaningful and specific for that. Whereas the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is getting the job done. First Fridays, we like to take a little bit of a celebration of that as well.
So,
Well,
Rustin, at L.E.K, our recommendation is often that people, when they're networking, reach out and recommend a call on a Friday. Is that usually a good recommendation, or is it too
You can
much
do
fun on a
that one.
Friday?
You could do on Thursdays, we have our beer trolley, which is something we brought over from the Australians who also know how to create a great culture. Yeah, either one of those times is a perfect time.
I love it, the beer trolley. We're going to need to get a visual of that at some point today. Bhushan,
No,
over
I'm
to
in
you.
HR, so we're not doing that.
Okay. Oh, so no pictures of the beer trolley, but the beer trolley is a hypothetical
Yeah,
thing that exists.
yeah.
Yeah.
Culture.
Okay, we like this. Yeah, culture.
I
Love
want to
it.
go. I want to go hang out with Rustin right now on a Friday. The only thing I would add to this is we have the same flexibility. I think it's really important to help our clients with some of these topics as well. The only advice I would give is we have a lot of early talent people. We have a lot of people that were hired during the pandemic. Be around people, as Keith said. Be around people, whether that's your clients, whether that's in an office, out of an office. You will learn so much. You will get the coaching. Yes, we're going to have AI agents that are helping us, but humans are the best source of learning. Make mistakes, be around people, build relationships. So important in this business.
Couldn't have said it better. Thanks, Bhushan. Awesome. Let's move on to another question. I want to talk about the war on talent. Right? We mentioned the macro market, the labor market being tight, and this is where I hope to pit you all against one another because you've been so nice to each other so far. But I really would like to hear. Tell me, is the war on talent real? Is it a constraint that you're feeling? Do you have to work hard to get people to hire? Are fish jumping in the boat? I mean, if there is a war, how are you winning it? So, Rustin, I'd love for you to kick us off for this one.
Yeah, yes, yes to all. I think finding and attracting and aligning on great talent that's going to be great in your organization because there are so many smart people, capable people, really great interpersonal skills. And we need them to be able to, be culturally additive as they approach our organization. Of course, we look at the key things, the critical thinking skills, the analytical skills, and we test around those and we interview around those. We think about the technical fluency and adaptability, and that's so important in a strategy consulting firm or any management consulting, just more broadly, having that adaptability and flexibility. But what's really critical and is maybe one of the hardest for us to really align on, both the candidate and L.E.K, is that interpersonal connection. Is L.E.K going to be a place that you're going to thrive? And is L.E.K going to give you that platform to really be able to thrive, no matter where you are in your career, and how you're growing from that perspective? So that's a really important part as I think about the quote unquote war on talent.
And how are you winning?
How are we winning? We win when we stay really, really focused, stay really, really pure to like who we are, what we're about. I'm a big fan that recruiting is a two-way street. This is not just me going out and, as big as I can make this funnel, get as many people in. I want people to be selective that they're applying to L.E.K, as we're going to be selective as well, because it is a two-way street that we've got to marry up together. So for us, it's being targeted on the universities we're going to, really expanding the diversity of the pipeline and the connections that we're making there. We often find the best sources are our interns, especially for our MBA hires. and really leveraging those networks on campus from people that have had exposure and experience to this beautiful little consulting firm, L.E.K, that maybe some others haven't thought about. And that seems to be really, really powerful for us.
It's like the beautiful game, the beautiful consulting firm, L.E.K.
L.E.K.
Russ,
I love it. I'll steal it.
yeah, exactly. Russ, and one last question. Who are you warring with? Is it other consulting firms or, because we've gone through different seasons where it's been product management or finance has been the big war or, who are you battling for talent with?
Yeah,
right now?
so, specifically it'll be the usual suspects. Some are on this phone call, Keith, that we have to think about. We also, we've seen more probably in PE and banking in the past, but I suspect that'll be ticking up a little bit more. Not as strong, except in some certain subsets would we go at maybe technology firms that we're going after similar. Our version of digital is not a pure technologist, so we're not as heavy as or head to head with some of those particular areas. And then lastly, because we do hire a lot of specialists in the healthcare. So that might be a vet, a pharmacist, PhDs in other areas or MDs. That opens up a whole range of different talent competitors. So what we're seeking is that person who has those really deep skills and passion for oncology as an example, and wants to do something really different with that degree.
Phenomenal. Bhushan, what about you? What are you seeing in the war on talent? Are you winning? Is there a war? Who are you warring against?
So we want to be winning with our clients in helping them solve solutions. And the reason I say that is not all of our talent is our employees. We also access the contingent workforce when we want to hire, when we want to access specialist skills. We work with some of our alliance partners on the technology side as an important channel. We even work on large projects with big companies, with some of the firms on this call, where they may take a role around an operating model or a PMO on an M&A transaction, and we literally have to partner, and I've done that with a number of strategy firms and other big four firms. So it's really important for us to kind of understand that. The other thing, the elephant in the room, is a number of firms have publicly made layoffs. Now, they've been small at a percentage level, and so this question may feel a little interesting because on one hand, a number of firms are making public layoffs, but we're also hiring. And I would say that at PwC, what we're doing is we're looking at the different mix. We need engineering talent. We need AI talent. We need to heavily hire in India and in the US for some of that talent. So we are looking at different types of talent that we're going to bring in, as well as traditional management consulting, strategy consulting, technology consulting type talent.
Bhushan, you're mentioning that basically PwC is doing what you're recommending your clients to, right? Which is constrained in some areas where they need to make potentially cash flow freed up so that you can make investments in the other areas where you're considering growing.
And also understand this career is tough. There's periods where you have to really dig in, and even though we've got all the technology, there are long days. There's travel. There is going to be periods where you feel burnt out, and so there's different life stages when this career makes sense, and when it makes sense to go work in industry or go work in a different part of the firm, etc. So we're, again, with our clients, we have a workforce strategy that's similar to our clients. We've got to kind of meet our people where they are, but we're also kind of the business needs are.
Well, I'll move on to another question. If one of you that didn't get a chance to respond wants to respond at the end, you can weigh in. But I want to move on to some advice for candidates right now. I know that one of the challenges that candidates are having, Bhushan, thank you for mentioning the elephant in the room, right? Should I even apply? Or is anyone hiring? Are you pretending to hire people, but you're not really hiring? Are you just building a pipeline in case you decide to hire in the future? So that's part of why we're here today, is to try to bring clarity to that question. So Jessica, I'll have you kick off for this one. What's a piece of advice that you have for candidates right now that are in the recruiting process? How can they win at KPMG? And also, if you have it, how can they lose, right? How could they really mess this up?
So I would love to share a quote with all of you that I'm sure many of you have heard before. It's a quote from Warren Buffett, and it states, "The best investment you can make is the investment in yourself. I would say this quote emphasizes the importance of continually improving your skills, your own knowledge, and your personal growth. And when you invest in yourself, you invest your capabilities, it opens up more opportunities for success and fulfillment in both your professional and your personal life. I encourage you all to develop strong analytics skills. I encourage you to take classes in business, in econ, in statistics, and data and analytics to help build that strong business foundation. Don't be afraid to engage in activities or coursework that involves case studies or problem-solving exercises. This is a good opportunity for you to build up your business acumen by staying informed with all the latest business news and trends. And finally, I would encourage you all to familiarize yourself with the different sectors, the different industries, to understand the diverse challenges that many of our businesses and our clients are facing.
I love it. If anybody, by the way, on the call wants more specific examples of that, we're seeing a surge in case competitions. That they can be a really good way for you to try to just test out this maniacal work environment, and your intellectual stimulation or not, if you're in that kind of environment. We also have a big recommendation of business podcasts that you can consume. So Jessica, thank you. Great suggestions. Keith, what about you?
Advice to people that are looking at consulting,
what to do or what not to do.
Yeah, panels like this are a good starting point for people that are thinking of transitioning into careers, especially those that are DMing me in the chat as I say this. There are differences between the firms, and understanding the differences between the firms, both not just culturally, but the type of work they do, how they approach their clients, the scope of work that they're doing. It's not better or worse at any of the firms that are on this panel. It's different. And it's important that you go someplace where you'll thrive, as was mentioned earlier. And so understanding the nuances between the firms, because I get people who think, oh, I just want to do consulting. And I'm like, well, why? Well, because I like variety. I'm like, well, I'm not your camp counselor. Like, we're not on a cruise ship. I'm not your cruise director. Like, I need you to work, and I need you to understand what it is that you're signing up for. And once you do that, at the end of the day, since we're quoting folks, the urban philosopher Earl Simmons once said, do you. You might know him as DMX. But the point is, do you, and go to the firm that you belong in. And the more you understand the firms, the better off you'll be when you make that decision.
Yeah, that's awesome. Keith, can I push back on one thing that you said earlier? Maybe go back, but not push back. You mentioned that you're looking for people with AI capability.
Yeah.
I don't know if everybody knows what that means. Is that like I have ChatGPT and I use it to instead of Google, or is it something else actually?
Well, so the truth is, it depends on the role you're applying for. I expect that most people that are on campus today are using it to get their work done, hopefully not using it to write their papers, but using it to get their work done. So there's a base level of proficiency that when you join the firm will help accelerate your time to insight, your time to understanding large data sets, et cetera. That I think is table stakes. If you're getting a degree, I expect your programs to be doing that. For people applying to other roles inside Bain, the bar is higher or lower depending on the type of role you're applying to. I mean, if you're applying to our innovation group or one of our engineering groups, yeah, I'm going to expect you to know it really well. But it's proficiency that we're really looking for. It's not that we're going to ask you to code something during a case interview coming out of business school. But I do expect that, just like I mentioned, the internet in the early 2000s or big data 6 or 7 years ago, it's just not going to be good enough to come in and say, I'm really smart. You're going to have to come in and say, I know how to use these tools. Once upon a time, Excel was a resume-worthy skill. Right? Word was a resume-worthy skill. Since most second graders are using word processors now, I don't think that needs to be on your resume anymore. But right now, some of the tools and coding tools that might help you accelerate your analytics is important. And I expect to see more of that on the resumes. But it's basically table stakes for everybody on campus these days.
Thanks, Keith. Appreciate that clarity. We're going to move into a lightning round where I've got a couple of questions that are more in the like yes, no category, maybe with a little bit of elucidation. We're going to try to hold these to about 1-minute responses, and everyone does not have to respond, but I'll leave them open to you to respond if you feel like they're appropriate. The first one is one of our most popular questions on every panel. Are you open to hiring international candidates? And if so, what do you need to see from them?
I can start. We are open for that. So some of them are role specific sponsorships. So that's in particular for our life sciences specialist as an example. We offer green card sponsorship. That's for our career level manager, which is a couple of years of experience with us, about somewhere between 4 to 5, typically if you're a promote through. And then, obviously we're a global organization, so we have opportunities that abound around the world as well, and oftentimes being small enough that we can have that nuance and create opportunities for people around the world.
Everyone the same, or anybody has something different? Yeah.
A little different for KPMG. So our audit and tax practices will consider candidates that need work authorization requirements. Unfortunately, on the advisory side, we are unable to consider candidates that require work authorization now or at any point in the future. My advice to all of you out there is to read the job descriptions. All of our job descriptions will have any sort of work authorization requirements in the job description. So please read it, because it's very easy for you to get quote unquote sort of like auto rejected from a job if you don't meet the qualifications.
Clarity is kindness. Thanks, Jessica.
Most of the MBA programs have STEM. So a lot of students in MBA programs have work authorization for a couple of years after graduation. It varies a little bit depending on where you're in school and what you're focused on, but we're absolutely open to hiring international students. The best way to get the job is to apply, and we'll sort the rest out later.
Yeah, and we had our recruiter kind of add in the chat our policy around this, and I think it's similar in terms of it's going to be job specific. The only thing I would add to this, back to the previous question, Jenny, is people here have to be the storyteller of their own experience. And so using LinkedIn and managing their profile and being thoughtful around the role they're applying in, they're applying into engineering or AI, being thoughtful and showing that they have a profile and have actually written something or commented on something about all the developments. If you're applying for financial services and don't have perspective on a deregulatory environment post-election, you're not reading the right things. And so coming with a point of view and being a storyteller of yourself using LinkedIn, I can't underscore that enough in terms of like differentiating yourself.
Gorgeous. Love it. Bhushan, I'm going to have you go first on the next one. How does your firm think about digital and AI assessments?
We use, in terms of recruitment, we use kind of the traditional, we use case studies, we have in person, we have virtual, etc. So we use some of that technology, and we have kind of before the pandemic, but it's still based on experience, and we're looking at the human skills, we're looking at the technical skills, and we're looking to say, would this person actually be successful here?
Awesome. Any of you seeing AI disrupt your hiring processes? You're using tests, challenges, etc. Keith's smiling. Go ahead, Keith.
No, I mean, look, we've always been, prior to AI even, looking at ways to make our process more efficient, more effective. And honestly, technology allows us to cast a wider net than we could have in the past. Because it allows us to spot people who may not have been on our radar, especially before COVID, when I was doing the barnstorming tour for 2 months, going around the world to campuses. I can't be everywhere at once, but on Zoom I can be, right? And not only that, but students who are on Zoom on campuses that we may not be at in person can apply online, and the digital tools are helping us reach them. AI is not going to make decisions in our process. It's a tool, no different than other tools that we've used in the past. And so that's sort of where we're at right now, but we're excited about the potential of it, understanding that it doesn't replace the human element and the human judgment that needs to be in the process.
L.E.K, KPMG, anything else to add to that?
They nailed it.
One.
Um, would any of you say that your digital tests are more than a component of an analysis, that they are basically a single round where you're like, this is the one filter that you have to pass? I think that's a common misconception that we hear. So I would just love to hear it from the horse's mouth that it's a piece of the picture, if that's true. And if not, I'd love to know the truth.
We're currently using it to gather data in parallel so that we can see if it deserves a bigger voice. But right now we're in data collection mode.
Yeah. And I think this will be an interesting space, right? We know things are going to evolve. Right now, personally, I don't have a lot of confidence in, trying to put all your eggs in one basket there. In particular, when we go all the way back to the points that we're making earlier, the analytical skills are part of this. The team skills are part of this. The client interaction skills are part of this. It's a full basket that we're looking for. We want the chocolate and the peanut butter.
Oh, God bless chocolate and peanut butter. Wonderful combination.
I also think we got to watch this space. We got to watch this space with the advances in technology. So one of my banking clients does a case study for everyone. Some of my clients, for their high volume talent, they use kind of testing. We do assessments for our associates entry level, but not for our MBAs. So I think we just got to watch this space with technology and kind of different kind of, how we see the workplace evolving as well.
Well, I want to take one. Jessica, hold on one second. Maybe we'll be able to weave it in. But I have one more kind of body of people that I think we want to make sure we're including in this conversation, which is the non-school hires. So, can you give us a perspective on is there zero chance at any of your firms that if you're not in the university at a target school, you can get in, or if you have even ratios, right, of non-core school level students that are entering your pathways, as well as experienced hires? I think we're seeing an expansion of interest, certainly from the work that we're doing. And it would be very helpful to know, are you hiring people outside of your core target schools, or is that a locked pathway that if you're not in it, you're out?
Yeah,
I would say, go on, Keith.
Yeah,
okay.
The quick answer for us is yes, we are. What we find is that people mid-career who want to do consulting we prefer if they have a distinctive expertise or competence that they're bringing to the table. What's been great for us in the last several years is that we're hiring lots of different type of talent into our practice areas, into our digital capabilities and our technology teams. And so people that are further into their career should also be looking at our website for those roles. We have huge demand for those types of roles right now. They're not traditional consulting, but they're really important to our case teams, the way we work.
And I'll build on that. For us here at L.E.K, we've moved to an on-demand model as well. So we will do about half of our hiring in the traditional campus way, and we'll do about half of our hiring at the associate level through an on-demand. So looking at people with 1-2 years experience in consulting that are ready to try something different, a different firm, a different approach. And then we also hire for, similar to Keith's description, at the more experienced level across the board. But we have made that distinction of moving from 100% on campus to something closer to 50-50.
We're similar in that boat. Maybe just kind of high level for you all on the line. So KPMG is very much an open application. What does that mean? That means anyone from any school can apply to our jobs. Those that we select for interviews are most qualified against the job description. So that's when I say, as you are looking to apply, please read the job description and the qualifications of the job description, because that is what is going to potentially push you through the process. So we do not just hire from our target schools. Anyone is eligible to apply.
Thanks. Bhushan, anything to add there?
No, I think we nailed it.
Good. Well, let's wrap up. Thank you all. We're coming up to the top of the hour, and I know that you're all incredibly busy. I just want to say huge, warm thank you. Thanks for the spicy conversation. I'm a little disappointed that you all agreed so much, but I guess that just is, we've got a bunch of wonderful senior people here. It's inevitable. But in light of all we've discussed, if you could just share maybe one hot take about the growth of consulting businesses and the hiring landscape over the next 12 months, as well as a word of advice or anything that you weren't able to share in the rest of the conversation. Bhushan, let's give you the first shot here.
Yeah, and I say this to my students who are applying to consulting. Don't be too picky. Your first role, your first consulting role, small firm, internal consulting firm, Big Four, even if you were looking at MBB, it's all good. Your first role is really important for you to learn, and then you can figure out if this industry is for you. And there are many other firms there. So just don't be too anxious. Be very resourceful, and cast a wider net than maybe you traditionally would have right now.
Stunning. Jessica, what about you?
So friends, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. In case you didn't know, oftentimes our consulting work is actually driven by what's happening in the deal market. So our deal colleagues feel that 2025 is going to be an incredibly big and very busy year for them, which then hopefully translates to significant work on the consulting side. For 2025, we are projecting that automotive, healthcare, energy, and FS are predicted to see the most market activity. And as I mentioned earlier, nearly almost all of our clients are seeking to integrate AI capabilities across their companies. Also, a little secret, our PE firms have $2.5 trillion in available capital to deploy despite all of the recent challenges the last few years. So we are very optimistic that 2025 is going to be a very busy year for both our consulting and our deal professionals at KPMG.
2.5 trillion, that's it, huh?
Yes, there is a lot of money to spend out there. We just have to go out and spend it.
That's awesome. Rustin, what about you? How about L.E.K? What are you seeing?
My biggest piece of advice for people is know who you are, be willing to share your story, be the human, be the person, be the connector. We want to hear the real you.
And will there be a dance demonstration before the end of this call, Rustin?
I'm working on it.
I made that up.
Keith,
the
bring this rodeo home, Keith.
Oh my goodness, get us back on track. The one thing that I would say is, with the advent of AI, there's been a lot of noise about what it means for consulting and the disruption. But the basic need for what we do hasn't changed. I've been here long enough to see the internet, Google was going to do that, and then the app ecosystem and big data was going to do that, and now it's AI. But the underlying basic need for the services that the four of us are providing and other firms like us are providing our clients hasn't changed. In 2009, there was an article on the front page of the Wall Street Journal about the death of management consulting. And it's been written like 3 more times, including probably last week. And at the end of the day, being a general manager, being a CEO is a lonely job. And having a trusted set of objective advisors from outside the organization to help you lead your organization, transform your organization, stay ahead as an organization, that need doesn't change. It's evergreen and it's ever present. And I'm excited that we're here to provide that support to our clients when they need it. So we're very positive on what the future looks like for us and our industry.
Keith, Rustin, Jessica, Bhushan, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you to everyone in the audience for coming. Thank you, Japheth, for all that you did to set up the call. We really value your insights and the relationships that we have with you. If there's any way that we can be of help to you in the future, please do let us know. But thank you again for joining, for sharing not just your talking points, but your stories. That was really a fun part of today. We appreciate you. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Jenny. Bye-bye. Thanks,
Thank you.
Japheth.
Bye.
Bye.